All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting for Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. All right, great. I'm glad to see everybody's here this evening. Thank you for coming. Even on my birthday, I love it.
Oh, tomorrow. Happy birthday.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
So that's it. You're getting to the bars afterwards. And you the shirt. And you there's something else.
Exactly. Exactly.
Killer eyes. Party with the young people.
You know it. So can I get a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting?
Do you want to do roll call?
Roll call.
I move that we approve the minutes from last meeting.
All right. Daniel?
Do we need to do
And
roll call?
can we have a roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Marlene Newman,
We want to make sure everybody's here tonight.
Ernesto Castaneda,
No, that's
Daniel Schlegel,
Here.
Sam DeSola,
no Sam.
Ashley Johnson, John Saunders,
Here.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Here.
William Folk,
Here.
Renard Cross,
Yes, you got Jeremy online.
Duncan Campbell,
You want to let me into that?
Kirsten Hawley,
Yes.
Karen Duffy,
Here.
and Jeremy Hackard.
Here.
All right, Jeremy. Very good. Okay.
Shall we move on to
Approval of minutes.
Approval of minutes?
Yep. So Daniel,
Okay, so,
you get to do roll call again.
yes, so we had a motion and, was there a
Oh,
second? Yes.
yeah, there it is, second.
Terrific, thank you. Okay. Newman?
Here.
I'm sorry, Marlene Newman. Sorry for my other commission where they just do the,
Oh, yeah.
my apologies. Marlene Newman? Yes. Okay, Daniel Schlegel?
Yes.
Ashley Johnson? John Saunders?
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell?
Yes.
William Folk?
Yes.
Renard Cross?
All right, we ready for our certificates of
Yeah,
appropriateness?
so let's do COA 24-14, 1020 West 6, and we got our petitioner with us. Excellent, all right.
So, some of you may recall that on February 22nd, 2024, an alternative proposal for this non-contributing duplex in the near west side historic district was proposed to the commission. There were some changes between, as you will see, the currently proposed design and the design originally proposed. The original design was opposed by the commission on a 4-3 vote concerning several objections from the neighborhood, including objections to a shallow half-width porch that was proposed, and concerns from the neighborhood design review committee that they had not had proper opportunity to comment on the proposed design. The new design proposed for the building would rectify some of the objections from the neighborhood, including expanding the porch to full width, extending it out further, adding a centered entrance, and additionally, the architect communicated these proposed changes to the neighborhood design review committee, who then sent me an email sharing that they approved of the proposed design and hope that the one presented in this in today's packet would be the same as the one that was presented to them in their meeting with the architect. So staff recommends approval, considering that the new COA proposal rectifies some of the problems that were found with the original proposal.
All right, no, thanks. Doug, additional.
Yeah, so I met, let's see, today's Thursday. I met Tuesday night with the neighborhood association as a whole. And I'd also met with the, their design design committee, and they approved that the other night. When we left the last meeting, talked to the client at length and was allowed to kind of have a little more free hand in it. And so what you see here is taking the comments that were brought up at that meeting and trying to turn this ugly duckling into something that'll really fit into the neighborhood. Again, the main thing on the porch is that we're right up against the property line in the front, otherwise it would be deeper than what you see. We did a few more things. We tried to add a little more character with the vertical board and batten. Again, I assured them that, you know, what we apply here, what we show you here is what we'll apply for our building permit, and that's what has to be built. So we hope you grant approval, and I think we've got something that really fits the neighborhood well and better.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Ashley, questions? Renard?
Could you bring up the plan view?
Or?
This.
With floor plan? Or
Yeah.
floor plan? Right.
I think there's one here, but it's so tiny.
Oh, no.
It's not there.
I'm sorry. I didn't include a copy of the floor plan in the presentation.
Okay.
Trying to see if I have a printed copy here, maybe. I have a very small printed copy.
Oh, I've gotten, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Where's the?
We added windows to the rear,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
and the porch is
Is this?
That's a
all the
porch,
way
there's a more
across.
detailed one down though.
Yeah, looking for the top view. Thank you. No, no questions, you can.
All right, great.
Okay.
Elizabeth?
No question.
All right.
No
Bill?
questions.
Marlene?
No questions.
Daniel?
No
No.
question?
I don't have any questions. Do we have comments?
Jeremy?
Oh, but, hey, Jeremy, sorry.
I have no questions.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I keep forgetting you're there, so don't let me forget about you. All right. Any comments?
No comment.
Renard? Elizabeth?
No.
Bill?
Yep.
Marlene?
Yeah, I think it's a great improvement.
Oh, God. Daniel?
I commend you
Yes,
on a massive transformation.
Any comments, Daniel?
Mine was only, I'm glad it fits in with the neighborhood and they seem happy with it from the meeting, so I'm just glad to see it can work for everyone.
Jeremy, any comments?
I would have voted to approve it the first time, and I would vote to approve it this time.
All right.
Karen?
Hey, thank you. Karen?
And I just want to say, I was at both of the meetings for the neighborhood, and everybody was very, very happy with this version, and very appreciative of Doug's patience with us as well as with his client. And we're really looking forward to it. Do you
Thank you.
need to say anything about the steps?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, is that the house, while the lot doesn't slope very much, the house, the floor plate, the finished floor sits up quite high. So we're gonna need quite a few steps to get from the porch if we're gonna come straight out. And the unfortunate part is that those will go across into the cities right away. So the next step will be to meet, actually I have a meeting with the planning tomorrow. And, you know, the steps will be wood, they'll be removable, they'll be on joist hangers that we could pull off if we needed to. So we hope that the support of this group and the neighborhood supported us seeking that variance, that we could get that and build the steps in the center. If we can't, then, you know, the alternative is that the steps have to go to the side because we can't cross that property line.
Understandable. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
And I don't have any comments other than that I agree with most of the commissioners. This is a big improvement there in that neighborhood, and I commend you for the design work and trouble you went to compared to our first meeting. So thank you very much, Doug. So I'm gonna need a motion to approve COA.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All
that,
right.
And if it's okay, I'd like to add that we approve either step location so that they aren't required to come back for that approval.
Excellent.
Okay, I
Thank
second
you.
it. Yeah.
Daniel seconds. Okay. Daniel?
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
William Folk,
Yes.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you
Have a
all.
good night, okay?
Have a good night.
All right, so we're gonna move on to demolition delay, and
Right.
this was from our last, this is a carry on from our last meeting. So Noah, bring us up to date
So-
on this.
Subsequent to our discussion at the last meeting about the integrity of the neighborhood, I prepared sort of a brief presentation on the history of Green Acres that, yes?
Are we skipping the, oh, excuse me.
Oh, I printed it at the end of the packet. but
Okay.
I put it ahead in the agenda.
All right, go ahead,
Right.
Noah.
So the 160 acres that now comprise the Green Acres neighborhood were developed as a farm by South Carolina Covenanter William Moffett Millen. His 1849 Greek Revival farmhouse is owned by Indiana University and occupied by the Organization of American Historians, and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Preceding the subdivision of the neighborhood by 74 years, the house is situated approximately 100 feet off of Bryan Street between 5th and 7th. The current neighborhood was developed primarily from 3 plats. In 1923, the western half of the district between Union and Clark Streets was platted under the name Highland Homes. Most of the older properties in the neighborhood, including bungalows and cottages, built in the 1920s and 30s, are located closer to 3rd Street in the southwestern corner of the district. Following the Great Depression and World War II, the rest of this plat was quickly filled out with national homes and other small, minimal, traditional houses, most of which are now renter occupied and include most of the houses up for demolition today. The Hillsdale subdivision in the southeast quadrant of the neighborhood was platted in 1947 under a racially restrictive covenant, which was subsequently ruled unenforceable the following year. The neighborhood is differentiated from the western half of the district by winding streets and larger yards. The housing stock still consists mostly of minimal ranches and split levels built in the 1950s. This section of the neighborhood includes several notable modernist houses, including 201 South Hillsdale, which I believe is pictured here in the upper right-hand corner, and 2412 East 4th Street. This area has proportionally more owner-occupied homes than other parts of the district and more residents under the age of 18 registered in the 2020 census. The northeast corner of Green Acres was platted in 1953 as the Overhill subdivision and follows a similar curvilinear street plan to Hillsdale, including large plots and a mix of ranch houses and split levels. A vaguely Usonian designed house by a local architect, Elaine Dunges. Is that how her name's pronounced? Dunges? Okay, right. Is located at 316 North Hillsdale and is rated as notable in the State Historic Sites and Structures Inventory. The neighborhood has always been occupied by a mix of faculty, students, and working class residents. In the 1960s and 70s, new developments elsewhere in town, as well as a looser housing market, drew some faculty residents away from the more modest homes on the west side of the district, most of these homes subsequently becoming student rentals. Between 1980 and 2007, the proportion of rental units in the neighborhood increased from 41% to 66%, which was a more significant climb compared to the city in general, due in no small part to the neighborhood's proximity to IU campus. In the 1970s, residents formed the Greater Green Acres Neighborhood Association to address issues including drainage, traffic, highway development, and declining owner occupancy. Some of the association's successful campaigns included tree planting and the installation of bike lanes. In the early 2000s, the Green Acres Neighborhood Association was revived to address some of the same concerns, and in 2007, produced a neighborhood plan with the Bloomington Department of Housing and Neighborhood Development. The plan studied age and income demographics, trends in home ownership, and the neighborhood's history, and developed 3 primary goals, which included leading the neighborhood in green living and sustainability, increasing neighborhood involvement from both renters and homeowners, and greater connectivity between the neighborhood association with the city and university. In general, though, neighborhood association activity has declined in the following years, though the East End still has an active permaculture community that developed around the same time that the neighborhood association was reinvigorated and hosts neighborhood events. Here are a few images. On the left is a map pulled from the city GIS map of registered rental locations. So you can see, in addition to the difference in layouts between different parts of the district, the difference in rates of owner occupancy between the southwest corner, the eastern end of Green Acres, and then the northwest portion of the district. On the right is an image from the Indiana State Historic Sites and Structures Inventory that displays the ratings of buildings. Orange meaning contributing, red or unmarked generally indicating non-contributing, green indicating notable, and blue, which you see marks the original 1849 farmhouse indicating outstanding. The last survey was conducted in 2014, so there are more houses that may be considered contributing now that were passed over during the previous survey. So that brings us back to the 5 houses up for review. Do we need to go over them?
Actually, I had a question. If you
Sure.
go back one slide on the left, so you said some of those are owner and some of those are rentals, but which one is which? I'm not familiar with the hand.
Is it green or red?
Actually, anything with a circle indicates that has a rental permit. Colors indicate whether those are active or not. So, unfortunately, there isn't a marker indicating an owner-occupied house, so it can be kind of hard to make it out.
If it has a rental permit, it's not owner occupied. Is that
Right.
the assumption?
Generally, there are some X's on there you can make out. Like one down in the southeast that indicates that the rental permit is no longer active. It's expired and not been renewed, so those would be presumably owner occupied.
Do we still have, sorry, I'm out of turn. Do we still have the map of the zoning for that area?
It's in the other room. I don't have a copy pulled up here. Ernest, do you know off the top of your head what the area is zoned? Oh, thanks.
All right, so let's move forward. Do we have questions for Noah at this point? Ashley?
So in your research, and I read the minutes from last meeting, but I wasn't here.
Right.
It looked like it was tabled to give the neighborhood more input.
Right.
Was there any additional input provided?
So I sent out a couple of emails to people associated with the neighborhood association. And we also sent out a notice on Nextdoor to the neighborhood to welcome comment. Some people from the neighborhood mentioned that they would be in attendance today, but I haven't heard any specific comments over the past couple of weeks.
I am here.
Right.
I am a
Mhm.
member, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right.
Like to
Yeah,
say
would you
something.
like to make your
Well,
comment?
I brought something very short.
Okay, very good.
Okay? Okay. Is it okay here
Yeah,
or?
well,
Okay.
what's your name?
Marines.
Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't going to say that
That's
here.
all right.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. So,
Yes.
my
Renard?
name is,
Come up or
Can you
stand.
Sure.
I can stand
Yes.
here. We hear, I can also.
If you'd
hear
like to
I
sit
need a
up.
microphone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Get a. So, my name is Marines Fornerino, and I live on Roosevelt Street, right behind the historic houses on North Jefferson Street. I am originally from Venezuela, hence the accent. And I came to study at IU in 1988. I fell in love with Bloomington the moment I arrived. I guess you could say it was love at first sight. The first 2 years attending graduate school, I lived in Eigenman Hall. I remember very clearly looking at the beautiful houses on Jefferson and beyond from my room and walking by them with other international students on our way to the grocery store and the mall. We had a sense that we were living the protected life at the university as we were stepping into the American experience. The beautifully unpretentious houses in the neighborhood told us a unique story about place and identity, and each house spoke to us through their particular features, prompting us to choose a favorite one. Later on, I lived as a tenant in the neighborhood, and several years ago, I became a homeowner. The architectural style of my neighborhood represents the cultural heritage of my community. It reflects the values and traditions of its past. Preserving the historic houses in my neighborhood will ensure that we don't forget where we come from, and will give the future that we envision a point of reference. I am aware that there are other neighborhoods in our town that have houses similar to the ones in question, and they are already part of historical districts. I think that this fact constitutes a solid argument to protect the historic houses in Green Acres. It has been suggested that this is, instead, one reason the houses on Jefferson Street need not be protected, because others like them already are. But if other houses very similar to the ones being considered for demolition are protected, then it follows that these too should be protected. There is no quota for protecting historic buildings. It would be like saying, why should all original copies of the Declaration of Independence be preserved? If there are extra, maybe we could get rid of them. Or why should the Louvre keep and preserve all 5 of Da Vinci's masterpieces that it owns? If they keep the Mona Lisa and maybe one extra just in case the Mona Lisa is stolen again, that should be enough, right? I believe that we are a city that does not think only on short-term gain. I believe that we are a community that always moves forward, but only in a reasonable way. I would love for my neighborhood to continue offering the many students that come to IU the same experience and perception that I have. Bloomington is a very special and unique place, and here we respect our past as we try to figure it out a better place by strengthening our shared cultural fabric and our communal sense of place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good. Appreciate it. Okay. Let's see, we were doing
We were doing comments.
questions or
and
comments?
Questions.
Questions and
I
comments.
guess questions.
Why don't we combine them?
Sure.
Because it's a demolition.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
thank you. So Ashley, questions or comments?
That answered my question.
Bernard.
Bring up the map again. I want to see where those houses are in perspective to the,
Okay.
to the,
So you see on North Jefferson Street, I'm sorry, the base map isn't
right, that,
super visible here, but that row of 5 dots north of 7th on the right side of the street. Oh, I can go up.
Yeah.
It's right here, right?
right,
Yes.
yes, those,
Mhm.
that row.
Right.
And that's the 7th Street that, sorry, that's Jefferson, comes off 10th Street, right near Agaman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And where are the boundaries of Green Acres?
I can sort of point them out. Boundaries defined on this map. Union Street, cutting over to Jefferson Street, then basically up to 10th, down 46 to 3rd, and then back to Union Street, sort of completing the square.
And if it is that we were going to make a recommendation for protection, how wide an area would we be thinking of?
So I think you're asking, we would have to send this to city council.
Right, so what would the footprint of our recommendation be? What area would we be
Well,
seeking protection for?
we would probably want to do the whole neighborhood.
The whole neighborhood?
Yeah. To do protection on it. But another thing to keep in mind is that it's already zoned multifamily all through this whole area right here. And across the street from Jefferson houses is the university.
Right.
Okay.
So how would that affect any recommendations that we would make?
I'm sorry.
How would that affect any recommendations that we would make for protection? The fact that it's zone multifamily.
Noah?
Well, it would have to be taken into account when guidelines are written up for the district that there should be some sort of allowance for constructing multifamily homes. I mean, it could also, affect the nomination politically. If, people in the council were concerned that, part of the reason for the nomination would be to keep multifamily buildings from being constructed.
Well, I get that, but
Mhm.
we're seeking protection
Right.
to preserve the historic character of the neighborhood.
Mhm.
However you define that. If there was going to be new construction, the only stipulation, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is that whatever is constructed is in keeping with the character of the
Right.
neighborhood. It
Mhm.
doesn't, would that preclude multifamily? If there's already multifamily there,
There
this means
is-
that multifamily structure would need to be in keeping
There
with
is
the
already
character.
some there are some multifamily houses in the neighborhood. Most of them are non-contributing, so built in 80s or 90s.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Any other comments or questions?
No, nothing more. That's it.
Elizabeth?
These homes, there's nothing really structurally wrong with them, they're sound.
We haven't been inside them, so we can't make that determination.
Mm-hmm.
Viewing from the outside of them, they look in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. So, yes.
That's it for me.
All right.
I
Bill?
have it, and I can comment. The houses the two
Excuse me,
houses-
sorry.
Oh, I apologize.
Your name
Oh.
and,
This was
The-
the plan.
sorry?
Planning.
Oh, no,
Okay.
my name's Ernest. I'm representing the petitioner.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a contractor. But the two houses on the north, Jefferson and 8th, which aren't part of this, DD, they're in better shape. They're on basements and they're in better shape. The ones on crawl spaces are in markedly worse shape and do have some water issues, but it's very typical for homes built, pre-war, post-war. But
Does worse shape mean bad shape? Because a minus is worse than an A.
Oh,
but
sure.
it doesn't mean.
Well,
that
I mean,
it's
your
bad.
standard water, protrusion in crawl spaces, mold, that sort of thing. It's very typical for homes built in that time.
So problems that can be
Oh,
fixed.
sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
One comment?
Yeah.
Is it okay? I'm
Well,
just,
we can-
I'm kind of surprised by the map to see so many contributing houses. I was not expecting that. So that was interesting so thank you for the report. And that's really it.
Okay, Marlene. Bill?
So I guess the question I have, Noah, if you can help me a little bit, I guess my understanding is for us to enter into protecting these houses, this neighborhood, we really need to have support coming up from the neighborhood is kind of step one. And I think if I recall correctly, step two is they need to vote that they want to move into being a historic district. Is that correct?
Right. If we're going to be considering a multi-property designation, then there will have to be 3 public meetings with the neighborhood. And I'd have to look back to see everything that's required, but it's a slightly different process from if we were just going to nominate one of these buildings.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think I heard you saying that 61% of the neighborhood is currently rental properties, or
It's
they
more
have
than
they have
66%
permits to be
now.
rental properties.
Mhm.
So, for this to move forward for any sort of protection, it sounds like we've got more individuals that would be voting against that than would be voting for it.
Well, the way that the vote would work, would be more than 50% of the property, all the property owners would have to be notified in the potential district, and then more than 50% would have to tell us that they object.
But if someone owns more than one property, they only get one
They only get
one
one
vote.
vote.
So if someone owns a majority of these properties in here, there might still be the potential for something to move forward, but at least based on what I would call the high-level raw numbers, it seems like it'd be a fairly difficult hill to climb.
Marlene?
Well, I think you're making a generalization. I mean, that is not founded in facts, because even though people may own them and rent them, it doesn't mean necessarily that they are insensitive to the historic nature of the neighborhood or of the context of the neighborhood. So I don't take umbrage with that.
And just a point of clarification, the commission can decide to do its own map, or the neighborhood, the property owners can, so.
I mean, our code does say that a historic or conservation district can be initiated from either the following of 2 sources. Based on its survey, the commission may draw and submit historic district maps for common council, or owners of property in fee simple can do that.
Okay, thank you, Marlene.
I'm sorry. Is there a difference in the criteria?
No, the criteria is the same.
Right.
I mean, the criteria, at least one of the following criteria have to apply: historic, architecturally
No,
worthy.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
The criteria for submission. That was what I was asking. Not on the historical nature. I mean, for example, if the commission puts it forward, is there the same requirement for 50% and so on? Is it the same as if the community elected to put it up? Is the
I went through this about 3 years ago, and we didn't have to vote before we brought the initial proposal to city council. our neighborhood really wanted our committee to vote, so we did. But we were not required by law, and, but we held a vote, which maybe raised the standard or the pressure on people after us. That's a different story, but it's not part of the law that they have to vote. But city council looks really carefully at how much support you have from the neighborhood, from the property owners. And so if you could say we have an election and the majority of people voted to become a conservation district, which is what my neighborhood wanted. We did that. And then after the 3-year period was up, then we had the vote. That's when the city sends out the letters and notifies every property owner. And you really hear, you know, holy hell from people who don't want to be told what to do with their property.
Right.
And many of them are absentee landlords. There are a few that cared, and particularly people who own just 1 or 2 houses, you know, in the neighborhood, many. But,
It's like 3 years after your conservation,
Then-
you'll be elevated to historic.
yeah, you'll be elevated to
Unless the
historic
majority-
unless,
Right.
unless over
Majority.
50% object.
Exactly.
So you're really in good shape if you get to that point. But you have to get approval for, whether it's for a conservation district or even from the get-go, a historic district. At, to do that, yeah, and city council, you know, it depends who's on it and what they're looking for in terms of demonstration of support from the community. So, I don't know.
All right.
You have heard from a few people, but nothing specific
Right,
except
until tonight.
until tonight.
Jeremy, you're a representative.
Is this question and comment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I would not be in favor of designating this as anything. I would let these go. I'm not sold on the historical significance of the area, and I don't think we'll be able to make a good argument to the city council. There are a couple of houses in here that are marked green where it might be worth going after. I know, I think one of them, you said the 1850s farmhouse or something along those lines, is already protected. That's great. I think based on kind of other sort of comments that they've done with what we tried to do with Cascades Park, I think there was a stronger argument there for a historic district, and they voted that down. So I obviously, I don't have a vote, but that is my 2 cents of, I do not think we should do this, and I think we need to let these go.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Daniel.
And I just want to make sure I get the facts right from last time, since it was 2 weeks ago. So last time there was a lady here. So you could work with her, or?
Okay, so do y'all represent the seller or who wants to buy her?
You want to represent the buyer and the seller, I suppose, because both sides would need this to be released for the deal to kind of reach where it would need to go.
Right, so, and I just want to make sure I get
Oh,
all the, since I've slept since the 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
So I just want to ask, so if I remember right from Sable, I wasn't sure if that was the company name or her name, so that's her name?
Sable.
Sable, okay. So from what she said, they just want this demolition delay as a box to check off that it's,
That is
potential
part
is
of the
there,
contingency.
but there is no set plan currently.
There is no set plan currently.
But from what I understand, it would take more than a year to create a comprehensive plan for something like this, unless there's already something there that's not being said.
Depending, there is no set plan at the moment, but, and there is not even a for sure, like the buyers are keeping all of this, what ends up being 8 pieces, because it goes, there's 2 other properties that aren't being, considered in this, the 2 on 8th Street. So, some of them make sense as rentals, some don't make sense as rentals, and make sense more as to be torn down to create like a duplex. But there is a sewer line that runs east-west, cutting through I believe it's houses 3 and 4, starting from north to south.
Okay.
So a large apartment building cannot be built here. I know it doesn't matter, but there is a sewer main that runs through there. I don't remember which houses it runs through,
But somewhere right.
but it couldn't be like one building taking up all 8 lots or anything like that. A city planning probably, it wouldn't be impervious from a city planning standpoint, but City of Bloomington Utilities couldn't allow that either, given they have a sewer main that services the neighborhood. So it's more realistic that, you know, several houses get sold off. But as a rule, you know, the buyers need to make sure that it isn't going to be, you know, hamstrung, like whatever they end up doing. And, you know, if they don't get a plan together in a year, they would still need to come back.
Right.
But at least they have a feel for how this might go this time around.
Okay.
And then they might decide to tear one down, like in the meantime. So like it just kind of covers the whole basis, you know, when you're putting together an 8 parcel deal.
Okay. So I was just curious, thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. Does that answer?
Yeah, that does. Thank you for that. I just want to make sure
Oh,
I
absolutely.
had the right facts before going forward, because when I go to work, I bike right through Green Acres, so I was under the mistaken impression it was already a historic district because of their nice little welcoming sign.
Actually, our hand department, that's a popular thing for neighbors to get grants for, putting up those signs.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. But I think from what Liz had said, I mean, and again, I've just biked by, I've not seen the interior. I mean, they look like they're in good shape. It's just the one, and I am directionally challenged, but it was the last one in the packet you had listed,
Right.
Noah. That's the one that for the most part, I was kind of like, well, either way, kind of what Jeremy was saying, but
That
that.
one is in the worst shape.
Is it really? I was like, because it looks like it's been, you know, from the exterior at least, the time has been taken to really restore this one and do something with it, at least once before. So the fact that it's a standing house, it's in good shape. My personal taste, it's one of the nicer ones that I saw going through there. So I don't know. It's a struggle. I understand what Jeremy's saying with Cascades and the point there, but at the same time with good affordable housing and what. Marinas. With what Marina said is with having this be, you know, being able to see that and having affordable housing right there in the neighborhood, the fabric of that neighborhood. I don't know. That really spoke to me. So with what she said.
Question for you. Does Sable own these homes?
No.
Okay, so she
Comfort-
brought it,
Doug Johnson knows.
okay, so she brought it to our commission, but you're not the owner.
She's the broker.
And, I'll ask another question. Karen, you had some,
And can I just remind the
petition.
members that you can't take future use into consideration when making these decisions?
Oh, we have a comment from Zoom as well? Okay. Hello, I'm a tenant of it's pulled up in yours, okay. I'm a tenant of a property in the neighborhood and walk around it regularly. In addition to the properties which contribute to the neighborhood, there's a very large old tree in the zone being recommended for demolition that would be a great loss to see cut down. Just for the new development of new properties. Just wanted to add the voice of another Green Acres resident.
all right, thank you. Okay.
That was something that I had heard comments about previously in the lead up to
Do
the
we have
last meeting.
jurisdiction over trees?
No. There can be guidelines in an existing district for trees, and there are city UDO rules that apply to trees, but we don't have jurisdiction over trees that aren't
But
in.
this commission does not?
No.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Any more questions or comments
Can I-
at this point? Yeah. Bernard?
Somebody who has this information readily available. Can you give me the criteria again for protection?
Sure. So it's historic, so the code says a historic district shall include a building, group of buildings, structures, sites, monuments, streetscapes, or neighborhoods which meet at least one of the following criteria, and it's historic or architecturally worthy. Historic has significant character. interest or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the city, state, or nation, or is associated with a person who played a significant role in local, state, or national history, or is the site of a historic event, or exemplifies the cultural, political, economic, social, or historic heritage of the community. And then architecturally worthy has A through F, or I'm sorry, A through G, and it embodies distinguishing characteristics of an architectural or engineering type, is the work of a designer whose individual work has significantly influenced the development of the community, is the work of a designer of such prominence that such work gains its value from the designee's reputation, or contains elements of design, detail, materials, or craftsmanship which represent a significant innovation, or contains any architectural style, detail, or other element in danger of being lost, or owing to its unique location or physical characteristics represents an established and familiar visual feature of a neighborhood or the city, or exemplifies the, I'm
that
sorry.
one again for me, please?
Owing to its unique location or physical characteristics represents an established and familiar visual feature of a neighborhood or the city, or the last one is exemplifies the built environment in an era of history characterized by a distinctive architectural style.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm somewhat conflicted. So I do appreciate the need where sometimes you have to remove something to build something better, or to remove something to build something different, or remove it probably just simply because it's yours and you want to move it. I also like old buildings. There's been a source of great pain and discomfort and significant expense on my part in seeking to keep them standing. So I will more often than not default to protecting them. So there lies the conflict. I was moved by the petitioner. Sorry, not the petitioner, the community member. I forgot your name, sorry. Marines. And she did make a point that resonated though. It simply is just because you have a whole lot of them, don't mean that you should be able to tear some of them down. And these buildings are not necessarily unique and significant in their own right. But the reason I asked to repeat that comment was because they do create a character of the neighborhood, a character, they contribute to the character of Bloomington. These are there are probably 5 or 6 styles of homes, which almost, you group those, that's 90% of the buildings in this town. And if we start knocking them down and it becomes 70, then 60, then 50, then 40, then you really have no Bloomington. That character of the town is gone. So the idea that because this particular building or that particular building is not historically significant, you have to take into account the broader character of Green Acres and, as would follow, of Bloomington. You mentioned that it would be a hard slug. I've probably spent my time fighting more losing battles than winning ones. I would certainly vote in favor of not approving, of not demolishing these buildings. Let somebody else decide that they want to tear them down. If the city council doesn't want to approve it, then they're well within their rights not to. But I'm not in favor of piece by piece dismantling those things which I believe contribute to the character of this town.
just not.
All right, thank you, Renard. So, do we have any more comments or questions at this point, Marlene?
So, just the idea of architectural character. People often think about it as being pretty highbrow or exquisite with relation to detail or even a historic person or character. And the problem here is that you have some pretty mundane houses that were representative of a period in time when that's all we could do, really. I mean, we had people coming back from the war, we had the Depression, and this is a comment on a societal era. I mean, an era of time, and when you lose this, you lose that comment. So I mean, I'm like Renard, I'm torn with this one, but because I can see why people would say, oh, well, they're useless. They look like, you know, a useless thing. There are hundreds of them. But it's a comment on our society and our history. We lose the historical comments and we repeat mistakes, or we don't remember, and that's a mistake. Anyways, that's it. Done.
Thanks, Marlene, appreciate that. So why don't, Renard, why don't you make a motion to start the process of making that neighborhood, Green Acres, historic? And we could have Nathan, or not Nathan.
I did want to, oh, sorry, is it okay if I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
The main value of the property for both the seller and the buyer is a combination of location and zoning. And it's also going to be the economic incentive on most of the owners in that property who, it sounds like, 70 or 80% plus are landlords who, like the fact that they have the location and the zoning in that area. It would be, I mean, this one specifically borders IU's Union Street parking lot. So that's what gives it its unique value. That's my only comment.
Thank you. Renard?
I move that we resolve to start. Oh, sorry, you want
No,
to?
I just have a point of order question. Are we gonna consider these individually as on the agenda, or is this the entire
We did,
neighborhood?
we grouped them all together and not do them individually.
Is there a way to ungroup them?
No, certainly, if you want to do them individually, we could, we go about that process. We'd say you can't, which ones you cannot do demolition delay with, that we can demolish. But I think at that point, then we have to be prepared to send it to city council to individually designate that house.
So what, with this motion, you're looking to protect the entire area rather than
Correct.
just, okay, thank
And
you.
just also, Noah, do you want to talk to them a little bit about what that process looks like, where you create the map and you do the survey? It's a
Right.
multi-step process.
So, what it would look like is if the commission voted to place these properties under interim protection, we would then, actually,
Do you want me to talk about it?
sure, I don't have the
Yeah,
whole thing in front of me.
So the
so.
commission can draw and
Mhm.
submit a map for the
Mhm.
common council approval. Noah would be the staff person who would work through that, would draw the map of the district, would bring history about this area. And, you determine the boundaries. Is there a primary area? Is there a secondary area? Obviously, property owners get to be notified. There's due process. They get to be part of the process, object and say things like, the economic value is better this way than this way. So, and ultimately it goes to the city council, and the council gets to decide whether to designate it or not. It just, like you were saying, hey, I don't want to be the one to tear these down. Let somebody else decide to do it. That's certainly up to this. Now, NOAA would work through that process and bring back a map to be voted on and
Right.
the boundaries and all that kind of stuff.
And then how does that relate to these specific proposals?
Well, so you guys have to decide, do you want to let these go, these individual ones go and be demolished? If you let these go, you still could say, you could let an individual one go, and you could say, but hey, I still want to look at this neighborhood because I don't want this neighborhood to become like the neighborhood up on 17th, North 17th, 19th Street, where it's all, bigger buildings. You might say, hey, I want to preserve this, so we are going to grant approval for one or more of these buildings right now, but I still want to move forward with the designation.
Because the designation could, it could be handled as, okay, it could, the commission could vote,
Is Nancy Hiller's speech afterwards?
it'll be tomorrow.
So they've switched it?
No.
All right, never mind.
So, if
What was that?
somebody came by for Nancy Hiller's talk, which I will be announcing is tomorrow.
They had the date wrong.
Right. So, if the commission voted to place any number of these buildings under interim protection, while a district is drawn up, that would apply to, the buildings that are being discussed here. But but not necessarily the other buildings that would be in the boundaries of a Green Acres historic district, which I'd imagine would have boundaries that sort of extend around that square, off to the highway.
Okay.
So I guess, you can think about you can think about these individually and decide whatever you want to decide regarding these. If you decide to let them be demolished, that doesn't mean you can't still protect the rest of that neighborhood and draw those boundaries if you decide to do that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Or you can say, I want these included in that boundary. It's up to you guys.
Thanks, Ashley.
So with this not being a historic district, if they were demolished, anything, whatever's approved by, I know planning and that they did avail it, but that wouldn't have to go through, like how some of the buildings, when they're gonna be torn down and rebuilt, come through us?
No.
These would not be, because it's not a I just wanna make sure I'm understanding. Okay.
Yeah.
Marlene.
So I have one other comment that it's an irony, I think, because, the Green Acres neighborhood in the early 2000s or 2007 produced this plan, and one of the primary goals was leading the city, I guess, in green living and sustainability. And we have, these houses that have what is it called, embedded or whatever energy, embodied energy, and you're just kind of, so it's kind of a weird thing with respect to the sustainability of the whole equation. That's all.
Thank you, Marlene. Karen?
I hate to say this because it breaks my heart to tear down any house that is, able to be improved to, standard raised a little bit. But I'm afraid Jeremy is right and Bill is right. We don't have the support of the city council right now. And the attempt with Cascades was brutal. I was there, and it was horrible. And it would be different if we had the full neighborhood support, or a lot of neighbors, strong. It would have to be super strong.
But we don't know, right? Because nobody responded. So there could be that possibility, right?
Well, I think there was also if you had a chance to read it, a very good article in the Herald Times about this. And I guess what concerns me is very little came out of that. I mean, it was broadcast to the public.
No response.
And with very little response. I mean, we have a great homeowner here representing the community. But when the newspaper presents it to everyone, and that is what we got back, that's where it goes to. I made a couple notes as I'm listening to everyone, and for those of you who don't know me very well, I'm very analytical and I'm very logical. And what I heard was credibility, low probability of success, and significant work burden on Noel and Noel's department. So in the reality of where do we want to spend our time and energy, and of all the things in Bloomington going on, I mean, I could think of other areas that I would get more excited about, wrapping our arms around and trying to protect. And I'm not saying this neighborhood couldn't be one of them, but it wouldn't be on the top of my list. But take the neighborhood aside for just a second and let's talk about these particular properties. These particular properties are adjacent to the university. I mean, literally you can see the university when you stand in the front yard. So that's another huge roadblock for trying to do anything with these properties. This one that we have up here that's been up here for over a half hour, this is the one that gives me pause. I think you can make a really good argument why this home, based on who's lived in it over time, probably should stay the way it is. I'm not sure we have the same argument for the other ones. But at the end of the day, I still go back to what Jeremy said, which is a pretty intimate read on the obstacles that would be in front of us. And then I just go back to, and that's the likelihood of success, then I go back to the amount of work that would be involved, and then I go to credibility. And so if something comes before a committee in the next group, that daggone it, every single one of us want to stand up and say, there's no way that we're going to let this happen. At the end of the day, you've only got so many bullets in your gun, I'll say, or cards in your hand if you're playing cards. And you have to use those very wisely. And right now, credibility, I don't think this is the one that I want to go all in on. Now, here again, this house that's up here, this greenhouse, that's a cool house with a cool history. And I could see pulling that one out as something separate. But it pains me because here again, I'm very factual and I'm reading the tea leaves of what I think's going to happen. And that's why I say the things that I do. But at the end of the day, tearing down houses that are in great condition that people can live in and be happy in, that just shouldn't happen. But, that's me and probably a lot of people like me saying that. But there's probably also a lot of other people that think differently than that. But I think that's one thing we need to consider is if something else came along, we've got limited time, resources, and credibility. And you don't want to dilute that down. And so that's all I want to say.
So I have Renard and Marlene.
Yep. Thank you.
I just had one
Thank you,
question.
Noel.
Sure.
So the house that's 22,201.
I forgot about that.
Okay, so sometimes people have prejudice against one style or another, and this is obviously a more modern style with a weird bay window on it. But, who lived there, this guy was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I was just.
Yeah,
pointing
Marlene,
out.
I forgot about that one. That one is
The
too.
history on this one is, I mean, that's
Yeah.
Manhattan Project and Crest Tooth Pitting, two huge turning points in American history that are overlooked frequently.
So, not an architect,
Okay.
not a historian, not an engineer. I'm a bureaucrat. That's my contribution here. I am a technocrat. I like reports. You know, I love policy and rules and that kind of thing. Also, in a former life, I was required to be somewhat knowledgeable about history, military history, as a matter of fact. And one of the things that I took away from all of my amateurish historical work was most campaigns that fail for one reason. And it is when you forget the cardinal rule, like the first rule in a campaign is selection and maintenance of the aim. Decide what your aim is, and stick to it. Once you start deviating, things fall apart. And history is replete with people who started out in this direction, and then for some reason they got distracted. This commission exists for one reason. The city council exists for some other reason. The community has its own mandate. We are not politicians. It is not for us to choose whether something will pass or not. That is not our purview. That is for if we decide that something is worthy of protection, that decision should not be based on whether it can pass the city council for protection or whether it will get this support or that support. That's not our job. Unless somebody wants to correct me. Our job is to look at the facts, look at the case that's being presented, assess that case on its merits, and make a decision on whether to release the delay, review for historic designation, forward to the council, for which interim protection would be required. That's our job. Right? We don't concern ourselves with what's going to fill the space if it's demolished. Right? And I think we're wrapping ourselves around the ankle, wuthering with this concern about whether it will pass council. If somebody resigns from the council and another person comes in, the decision that the council would have made yesterday could be completely different than the decision it makes tomorrow. Right? So let us not concern ourselves with what will be passed by whom. Credibility exists in us maintaining our aim. Do we honestly believe that this thing deserves protection because it meets one or more of the criteria which is required for us to move it along for a recommendation of historic designation? That's the only thing. Right? Please focus. So, I am unconcerned. If we send 100 things to the council and 100 come back, if they turn it down, I'm still going to put through that 101. It doesn't matter to me. That's their job. We need to do our job. Right?
Good point.
So.
There you go. There's that. All right. Any more questions or comments at this point?
I have a comment.
Yes, Jeremy.
I would not, the historical significance for me for the people wouldn't rise to the level of something we would need to protect. Yes, he was involved in the Crest 2 space thing, but he's not Joseph Mueller, he's not Harry Day, he's not Bill Nebbert now. The people that really drove that forward, that actually made the discoveries and did all that sort of stuff. We're not at that point. And I'm struggling with I don't know which part of the criteria we could really point to on these houses and be like, yes, this is definitely this is a slam dunk case, we've got it. I don't think we have it here. I really don't. And so I take that information, the historical significance there, and I'm sorry, we have to consider it. What would happen if we are bringing this case that is not tight and well put together to the city council? That is a problem. So I think we don't have the history on our side, and then we don't have the outcome on our side. I would, my recommendation would be let these go. In addition to the fact that the staff recommendations, after looking at everything, said, yeah, we should probably release these as well. So that is why I would make that recommendation.
Thanks, Jeremy. Okay.
I guess to speak a bit about the staff recommendation, having looked at the neighborhood as a whole, I think that there's a lot of integrity there that demonstrates, the patterns of development and history of that part of town and Bloomington in general. And some of these individual houses are certainly associated with, periods of lives of people who have made significant contributions to the community. But part of what gives me pause is those two criteria sort of weighed against the greater district, and then individual houses on the other hand are essentially two separate arguments. It would be an argument for these two houses that are associated with, no offense to the people who lived in the other houses, but for what these people did while they were living in these houses, that's something that could potentially rise to, the consideration of the criteria that are laid out for significant individuals. And then looking at the neighborhood as a whole, you can make the argument for the historical significance of the neighborhood that demonstrates, broad patterns of history in Bloomington. But something that's been difficult for me is rectifying these individual houses, which we're considering as a group, with the history of the neighborhood as a whole. And I think if we were going to vote, or if you were going to vote to place all these properties under interim protection, it would be because the commission thought that the neighborhood as a whole ought to be a district, if that makes sense.
And I'd like to echo, just from sort of my perspective as staff for this commission, I'm also hearing, and I don't know if this is what you're also saying, is I'm hearing more of an interest in protecting this neighborhood as a whole, rather than I care about these buildings that face IU. So you could let these go if you wanted and still protect the neighborhood. You could say to staff, please start drawing a map now and bring to us for consideration so we do not lose this entire neighborhood. Like these that are bordering IU, maybe we let those go. And I'm not arguing for that, I'm just saying this is an option. You could say, those go, but we're now making this a priority to protect this neighborhood because this represents, post-war Bloomington, and we don't want to see this whole neighborhood go. And so then you start the work, then you start building your case, and you all, collectively as a commission, present your best foot forward to the council. And I also agree that you're not the city council. You're the Historic Preservation Commission, so you do your job, let the chips fall where they may, and the council then gets to decide from a policy perspective. You make a recommendation, then they get to decide, is this a neighborhood worth protecting or not?
Thanks, Margie.
The thing though, is kind of like allowing you to cut the leg off while you concern yourself about preserving the body. And so my recommendation would be to move to designate the community not only to preserve the community, but I consider these houses part of the community. I would not be willing to sacrifice one limb while we put the rest through. I mean, if you start, how long does it take usually for this process to move through to get to a vote?
How long did it take for West Side?
We worked on it for years.
Right, and in that period of time, you could lose a third of the neighborhood.
We did lose a lot of houses while we were working on it.
Right. So my recommendation would be, if the commission so agrees, is to make a recommendation for designation and to put the entire neighborhood on the interim protection until a decision is made. It doesn't make sense leaving it open to knocking things down hither and yon, left and right, while 2-3 years pass. It just seems somewhat logical to do it that way.
John, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I'm Steve Wyatt from Bloomington Restoration, and I have a couple questions. One, do you have to end the demolition delay today by either letting them go or moving to designate, or can you let the demolition delay continue until the next meeting? And my other question is, I think our group would be interested in trying to negotiate with the buyer to see if they would be open to going into agreement with us on options for the moving of houses.
Right, the demolition delay period is 90 days. It began April 15th. So.
We have 2 more months.
Right.
And it could be extended another month.
It could be extended another month.
I would not have an issue with moving to table it until the next meeting for more discussion and more consultation.
Be interested, and then you probably have to go back and talk, or would they be willing to talk with Steve and VR, or?
I mean, as long as the timing worked out, I don't see, I mean, realistically, there's no reason that, there's no theoretical cost. I mean,
You're talking about May of next year for
Oh,
demolition, right?
I mean, that would be realistic best case, like on our schedule, is May of next year.
Well,
Yeah, 'cause that would be a good, kind of everyone wins.
okay.
And that, to me at least, I mean, if BRA is able to do and y'all are willing to work with them on that.
Marlene?
Doesn't help the neighborhood and historic district.
Correct.
Right. That's something that, of course, people in the neighborhood are welcome to discuss with me if they'd like more information. Mhm.
Because, I mean, that still doesn't
I know,
stop
I'm
our
still in
interest.
favor of making a recommendation for designation, because whatever happens here, we don't want to see it continue to happen, house after house after house.
Would it make sense to table it, not make a decision tonight, and let Noah bring a map back to you for consideration at your next meeting with some boundaries? For you to consider a map that you might want to support passing along to the city council?
Yeah.
I mean, you at that next meeting can decide, yes, I like these boundaries, no, I don't. You could have more information about the houses. If that's, if we're well within our 90-day period.
Yeah, works for me.
Well, make a motion.
I move that we table this matter until the next meeting 2 weeks from now, with the view of producing a map of the area for possible recommendation for designation.
Sure.
And I second it.
Thank you. Daniel?
Yep. Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
No.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
William Folk,
Yes.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see you guys next month. Thank you.
All right. Next order of business, we have a couple of applications for $500 BHPC consulting grants. They're both from the same petitioner, who I don't believe is with us tonight. There had been.
Really,
Yes.
really quick, I
Mhm.
gotta go. I gotta take my son to a Little League game.
Oh, have
but
fun.
Anyway,
Mhm.
Good to hear anybody discuss, hear
Thanks,
anybody
Jeremy.
discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Right. So, these two buildings, are owned by petitioner, or soon to be owned by petitioner Felisa Spinelli. And in 2022, she was awarded one of these BHPC consulting grants, to consult with Spring Point Architects, which is an architecture firm that regularly works on historic rehabilitation projects, to create plans for, conducting some restoration work depicted on the next slide here, which would substantially leave the buildings the same, create an additional parapet, though this isn't a COA yet. This is just for consulting for potential future plans. She had been awarded the funds by the commission. However, due to a clerical error, we never sent out the fund. So, unfortunately, the MOU that we also signed with the petitioner has expired. So, Ms. Spinelli has had the patience with us to return to reapply for a consulting grant for the work that she had commissioned from Spring Point Architects. She had also applied for an additional consulting grant. However, I don't believe she's here to speak about that. So the one that I'm familiar with right now is her application for the money that had been awarded for the previous work conducted by Spring Point. So,
Okay.
right, in that case, I would recommend rewarding funding for the grant for work that was carried out in 2022.
All right. Any more questions or comments for no at the time? All right. So we need a motion to approve the grants.
Motion approved.
Ashley, second it. All right, Daniel?
Okay. Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Elizabeth Mitchell,
Yes.
William Folk,
Yes.
Reynard Cross. Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you,
All
Daniel.
right. New business, I have a couple of announcements. One, if anybody's interested in high school basketball or college basketball for that matter, we got some posters from the State Department of Natural Resources about historic basketball gyms in Indiana. So feel free to pick one up. Or if you're Daniel, you can pick up as many as you think you can hand out. Also tomorrow at 6 p.m. is going to be the Nancy Hiller memoriam talk delivered by Duncan Campbell. So if you knew her or you're interested in learning more about her, I definitely would encourage you to come to that. Also, June 9th at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Bloomington, Bloomington Landmarks is going to be, I believe it's co-sponsoring a gospel event as sort of an early Juneteenth celebration.
No,
Nope, not there? I
At
saw
the
you.
Unitarian Universalist Church, we're doing a preview
Oh, okay.
of our play, and it'll be a free event
Mhm.
to thank Bloomington Center because they've supported Resilience Productions. So
Mhm.
you get a preview of our live stage performance. Opal Lee, the legacy of Opal Lee. Most people don't know who she is. We would not have the Juneteenth holiday if it was not for her. She's still alive. She's 97 years old. So we're telling her story of getting Biden to sign off that Juneteenth is a holiday. And the big production will be downtown Indianapolis on Sunday, June 16th, starting at 4 if you buy a VIP ticket. If you buy the VIP ticket, you will get a live stage performance, a complimentary drink. delicious hors d'oeuvres, a gospel concert, and a blues concert at Indiana Landmarks, 1201 North Central Avenue. So that's what we're doing for Juneteenth. Also here, Saturday, June 15th, will be Bloomington's Juneteenth celebration, and one of my first markers will be unveiled. They're honoring the black conductors on the Underground Railroad. There were 6 of them that nobody knows about. They never get mentioned. So we're going to start preserving black history one marker at a time here in Bloomington.
And that'll be presented by Erin Carter, who is an intern working on Liz's grant project for, I mean, amongst other things, the marker program, which is
Just a little
a county
small
program.
portion of that, yeah.
And then she's also been, or the two of them, been conducting research for updating the West Side African American walking tour and a exhibit that'll be presented at the History Center in 2025.
So, and I'll also do a video to accompany that, so to make sure that people who are unable to get around, that they could sit and watch the video of our shared history.
And what Elizabeth failed to remind us all of is that everybody on the commission gets complimentary VIP tickets. Is that how it goes?
I don't have any money for that. I don't make a dime.
Listen, it was worth a try.
Yeah.
There's one other thing that I should send you this. It's about, I'm on the Indiana Modern thing, and they're having something on May the 30th. There's going to be a lecture and a tour, and it's modern, modern sort of. So it's kind of an interesting. So can I send it to you, and then you can. I don't know what.
Is it in Bloomington?
Yeah, it's in Bloomington.
Oh,
yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll just forward it to you, and I can forward it to everyone actually.
Also, I don't want to spill the beans before everything's final, but John and Chris Sturbaum and I had a meeting with some people from planning as well as somebody from IU Real Estate about the sidewalk on South Dunn Street, which is the oldest sidewalk in town. And we had discussed a plan that would involve basically moving the existing stone sidewalk 4 feet to the left and installing an accessible sidewalk up next to the building. So it sounds like that's going to be feasible. It's not set in stone yet, but
Very close. It would happen,
Right.
it would happen this year. The talking with streets, they could possibly get the sidewalk moved this year yet, and then get a replacement to fill in, so it's a continuous walkway across there. IU said that they would take care of that if possible. We're waiting to hear back on that, the cost.
Right.
And what that'll be, but it's a very positive thing. Instead of moving it to the History Center or Daisy Garden Farm or something like that, we're gonna just set it aside and put it back, and the plaque will stay there, and it'll be a nice thing, a big thing for us. We're up to public comments or commissioners' comments.
Sure.
Request something from,
Yeah.
I'm not sure who I'm requesting it from, but it does seem like there is a bit of lack of cohesion in what we want to protect, and I think we would be a lot better off as a commission if we had some goals and direction or like target areas that we could.
We actually do, Ashley.
Could we maybe have a work session? Because I think I've read everything online, but I'm not sure, I could have missed something, but it would be really helpful for me anyway, just as a member of the commission, to maybe have like a work session or something with a group or a couple work sessions so that.
We've talked about in prior years about different neighborhoods to start targeting. And it's just one of those things that other things come up first, so we haven't gotten to that point. But like,
if you would like to put together a work session and people in the commission think that would be helpful, we could schedule a time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me know.
And there have been, even within my time, like a couple other neighborhoods that people have talked with me about, just out of curiosity of what could be designated there, so.
It seems like it would make us more efficient as a group, just if we had some goals or strategies.
Okay.
And the council still knows that you want to have a work session with them?
Yes.
You just have not
put it on their calendar yet. If any of you have influence with council members and want to talk to them about that.
Oh, we
certainly
just
feel
lost
free.
Jeremy.
Oi.
He's our representative, so yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other, Marlene?
So Elizabeth has this great thing, and it's hard to, that's happening, this event. And it would be nice if there were something on the webpage that would list, and so we've got the lecture tomorrow, and then we've got Elizabeth's thing and this thing, and it would be nice to be able to, have people go to the, and have, so is there a way to add that to the website? Event?
Potentially. I would have to talk about what form it would take if there'd be a newsletter or an event calendar. Some departments like parks have those. I also have the Historic Bloomington Instagram page, where I'm happy to share news about events if anybody has one that they'd like to present, and that's something that I can check up on regularly.
Does the city have a Facebook page too? I
Right.
have seen this
Mm-hmm.
circulating.
They
I
do.
don't know who circulated it
So-
on Facebook.
Right. I don't have a historic preservation Facebook page, but I sent it out to some other city departments that have Facebook pages and wider audiences. So I was using those to advertise both of these events.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that one
So-
too.
Mm-hmm.
And Han doesn't have one either?
There might be a hand neighborhood calendar, but I don't think there's a general
Not
hand
as-
events
yeah.
calendar. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to public comments and announcements. Does anybody have that with us online? Looks like just the housing, and we've lost our audience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hearing nothing, let's do an adjournment. Everybody vote yes?
I move, yes.
No.
Thanks, Bernard.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you,
everyone.
guys.